Excited. What else? What else do you see? What else happened?
I don't feel safe in this class.
Alright. What else do you see? What else do you feel when you see this person? Nauseous. Anxious.
Palms are sweaty.
Butterflies. Palms are sweaty. Those are perfect responses. Now the idea is, think of that significant other that gives you this response. They wear a certain scent, correct? Correct? Everybody? Yes? The idea is that I can take away the person and just give you the scent and you'll still have the response. Alright, so some of you have been in a mall, that person walks by that has that same scent and you're looking for that scent because it reminds you of that person. That's classical conditioning. That makes sense to everybody? Okay. So we had the bell. We hope not. We had the bell. The bell brought about what for the dogs?
Food.
Food. The food brought about what to the dogs? They started to do what? Salivate. Correct. So in classical conditioning, all I have to do is have the bell and it's going to bring about what? Exactly. Everybody follow? Okay. Now that you understand how the process works, now I want you to be able to identify. Remember we talked about on the test, you have to be able to identify the concepts. So it's great that you know the process, but now you need to be able to apply it. So we're going to take these apart and understand the different dynamics of each one. So we first talk about unconditional stimulus. Unconditional stimulus that has the ability to produce a specified response before conditioning begins. This is literally saying nobody taught you this. Okay? If I put food in front of you, you're automatically going to do what? Salivate. Did anybody teach you that? No. No, it's just an automatic response. It's an unconditioned stimulus. Does everybody follow? Mm-hmm. An unconditioned stimulus is going to bring about an unconditioned response. Okay?
So that's like what you just said. If you see somebody that you like or whatever, it's unconditioned.
It's unconditioned. Nobody taught you that when you saw the significant other, your palms will sweat. The butterflies came. Did anybody sit down and explain this to you? No, you just started to feel it. That's because it was an unconditioned stimulus. Is that understandable? All right. Eventually what you have is what we call a conditioned stimulus. This is what you now learn to replace that unconditioned stimulus. Does everybody follow? Yeah. So this would be an example that we talked about the significant other. What would become your conditioned stimulus? The smell, the scent. Everybody follow that? Mm-hmm. In Pavlov's experiment, what became the unconditioned stimulus?
The veil.
The veil.
You said unconditional.
I'm sorry, conditional. And it always is going to bring about a conditioned response. So what you notice about the unconditioned response and the conditioned response is what? They're the same thing. Did you see that? I can remove the food, just have the bell, and I'm still going to get the same response. Everybody follow? Okay. The idea is that, let's use that significant other that we had for this long period of time. You acquired what we call acquisition, formation of a new CR, which was a conditional response tendency. So again, let's just say that they changed their perfume smell, or they changed their cologne smell. You then acquired a new conditioned response that brought about. Does that make sense? Yeah. So everybody follow. So if you had somebody wearing, give me a scent that somebody is attracted to.
Armani.
Armani. Okay, so Armani is his scent. Let's just say he switched and he started wearing Irish Spring. Okay. It's hard times he can't afford Armani anymore to wear Irish Spring. So he walks by now with Irish Spring. Will Armani still give you the same response?
For a while, maybe.
For a while, but eventually what's going to give you a response? The Irish Spring. Does that make sense? Now, unfortunately, let's say you had a breakup. I know. Okay. Eventually, now that you're smelling Irish Spring and Armani, it's going to have what we call extinction. No longer will you respond to it because now it doesn't give you the same response. Everybody follow? Mm-hmm. Everybody understand the two different definitions? Okay. But every once in a while, you're going to have what we call spontaneous recovery. Mm-hmm. That one person came by you with the Irish Spring or the Armani, and you thought for a moment, I remember him. I remember the good days. I can't believe he's dating my sister. But you have that moment where it switches back. Okay, so you understand that. You then have what we call stimulus generalization. this idea is that we generalize everything on one stimulus. Okay, so let's just go back to our mighty smell. We might start to now generalize just the smell of cologne. So every time we smell cologne, we think about that person. Does that make sense? Okay, give me some examples where you found out now that you've got classical conditioning on.
So what was the first one?
Spontaneous recovery is when it actually comes back after a long period of time. So give me something that you've learned from classical conditioning. You said you understood.
It's just hard to prepare.
One more time.
Stopping at a red light.
Stopping at a red light. Okay. How is that going to be classical conditioning?
Because you don't have the natural tendency to do it, it's a learned behavior.
It's a learned behavior. So eventually, and let's even move it a little bit further. Let's go into the bathroom. We're taking a shower. Somebody comes in and flushes the toilet. What do you automatically do?
Shiver.
Most of you are going to do what?
Step
Step away. Does the water have to change for you to step away?
No.
What do you have to hear to know? The sound of the toilet means what? Water's about to change. It's time to step away. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We'll even go with bells. A lot of times in middle school and high school, you guys left class by simply hearing what? A bell. Right now, if I put a bell and had a bell go off in this hallway, would you get up and leave?
Yeah.
How many of you would leave?
I would.
I would probably be like, and I'll be like, wait a minute.
Fire in school.
Okay, what has the bell became? Remember, the bell now has become an extinction because it doesn't represent what it used to represent, correct? But those who still got up had what? Spontaneous recovery, because you reminded them that what's supposed to happen at the bell. Class ended. Everybody follow? The second one is, this would be if you heard a fire truck, anything that sounds like a bell, a phone, you would do the same response. Does that make sense? Everybody follow? Anybody confused? Okay.
Yes.
Who's confused?
I'll get through it.
Tell me what you're confused about, Kim.
Can you start over?
What are you confused about? Okay.
When you start back at learning.
Next, we're going to talk about stimulus discrimination. Now,